Okay, when you're installing the pedals, there's a few key points that I'd like to cover first. You're going to be installing the pedals before you install the console. The reason being is because it's easier to access the pedals if the bike is up on its nose, which I'm going to show you how to properly do here in a second. So we do have a right and left pedal. They should be marked out of the box, and you can actually see which way they go by the cage. The cage should always be pointing forward on the left and right. So again, take note of that. There is a left and right. Make sure the cage is forward. And then you're also going to have a bolt that comes in from the back side, and we're going to talk about proper torque and how to put that on the correct way. So let's go ahead and place the bike up on its nose. You do want to make sure that both the handlebar fore-aft adjustment is nice and tight, and that the handlebar height pop pin is tight so that when you set the bike down, it doesn't rock or move on you. I also highly recommend you put down a mat or something soft, a towel, so that you do not damage the rubber on the handlebars when you tip the bike up. The easiest way to tip the bike forward, you're going to be tipping it up onto its transport wheels, is from the rear of the bike. So I'm going to go ahead and just gently pick the bike up from the back, and then sometimes I put my foot here and slowly lower the bike down, not letting it slam to the floor so you don't damage the rubber on the handlebars. Now, the best way to install or to get the easiest access when you're putting the left and right pedal on is when the crank arm is facing down. That's why we do like to put the bike up in this position. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to properly install the Morse taper pedals. Now, we did go to a Morse taper a few years back. Traditional pedals have threads. This is a much stronger system, and it does require a bolt with a proper torque to squeeze this spindle into the crank arm. This is a really great way to do it. So to install this, you're just going to slide the the pedal into the crank arm, and you can see I've got it in there. And then what I like to do is just give it a little bit of a tap, just so it kind of seats it, so that when I start to drive that screw in, it doesn't, move the spindle or have the spindle spin with the screw as I put it in. Another thing that you do not want to use on anything on the bikes, if you're an installer and you're doing a lot of bikes, do not use an impact gun or wrench on any of these. We've seen that happen over the last few years. That can actually damage the sensitive equipment that's in this left crank arm. So do not use an impact gun when installing the pedals. So let's go ahead and take that pedal bolt that's provided in the box, and you're going to slide that into the back side of the crank arm here, and then using an 8mm Allen wrench, you're going to go ahead and start to tighten that down. Now, you do want to put a lot of torque on these, so that's why I like to do it this way, so I can get in here. And I like to hold the pedal and just start to tighten that up, and then give it some torque. You can see I really gave that some torque. It is nice and tight. Again, the cage is facing down in this shot or forward, so that it is installed correctly. Now, if you ever have to remove the pedals or crank arm, there's another video on that, on how to properly do it with the spinning branded crank arm pedal removal tool. So that is how you properly install the pedals on all of our commercial line of bikes.